Hi, I'm Hawa B. I am my new mom. I have a 9-month-old daughter. She is the absolute best. And I 10 out of 10 recommend hypnobirthing because I think up until I took that class, I was kind of dwelling in the aches and pains rather than the beauty of it all and how much your mind and your body really are connected and how much control you have over the entire experience. And until I took hypnobirthing, I was terrified of labor. Yeah, so our hypnobirthing journey started in the third trimester. I felt like I was really, really late, actually, because a lot of women that ended up being in my class were in their second trimester. So when we started our hypnobirthing journey, it started because I thought about an epidural, but I also wanted to kind of see what my other pain control options were like. I'd done some meditation in the past, especially with like insomnia, trying to go to sleep. So I was wondering, I wonder if there are any other like meditative processes that I could do to, lean toward a natural birth without epidural, but knowing that if I wanted an epidural, I always had that option. At first, when I heard hypnobirthing, I was like, sounds kind of interesting. Sounds a little, woo-woo, if you may. And she really kind of explained that hypnobirthing really is just a way to kind of have control over your body. And it doesn't mean that you don't need any interventions from Western medicine should you want. It's just kind of a way to be autonomous and to take control over a process that feels very out of control. So we ended up signing up for the hypnobirthing class that started like 3 days later. It was really last minute. And so we would go every Wednesday for about 2 months. And it was, I think, 3 hours. And we really looked forward to this class. And it really gave me hope that I could be in control and I could control, my physical process and just understanding that my body was made to do what it's about to do and to just kind of let my body do its thing and not make the situation more painful than it needs to be. So hypnobirthing techniques, they vary. So a lot of them are physical. So, you'll physically get onto a mat if you're doing an in-person class with your partner, and your partner learns to come up with massage techniques that might help you relax different, pressure points in your body so that he can practice, you can practice, and then by the time you're in labor, hopefully it's just like a well-oiled machine. He knows where to press, he knows where to push. So I thought that was great that it empowers men as well, because from what I know and from what I learned in the class, a lot of times men also feel lost and they don't know how to help. And in that moment, going into labor, you might think, back rub might feel good, but in the moment you're like, get off me. Like, I don't like that. So it kind of gives your partner, or it doesn't have to be a man, your partner, a guidebook as to how to help as best as they can. So a lot of the physical positions we were getting in were to, one, engage the pelvis to help baby drop lower. And what that does is during labor, if you're in these positions, such as, let's say, a squat or on a medicine ball, baby is able to engage in your pelvis lower and lower and lower. And so that'll it's supposed to speed up labor in a way so that your body doesn't have to push baby from way up top. You want to get baby as low as possible with those contractions during labor, just to help baby get as close to the, opening as possible. So physical positions, we were on the yoga mat, we were on the ball, we were practicing opening up the hips on the chair. We also did a lot of meditative work. Hypnobirthing a lot of classes come with soundtracks. So it's like guided meditation. So they kind of teach you how to breathe and engage your abdomen when you're breathing so that you can, one, emotionally connect with baby as much as you can with those big, deep breaths going into your belly, and to just bring oxygen into the body. That also breathing definitely helps with pain. So one thing that is really honed in hypnobirthing with breathing and meditative practices is to avoid purple pushing. So purple pushing is kind of how we picture women pushing during labor from movies and TV shows, right? Like her face gets really red or purple and she's screaming and she's clenching. Hypnobirthing is intended to do the opposite of that. So instead of holding your breath and pushing, it's more so to breathe through those contractions and to calm yourself as much as possible, because when we're purple pushing and we're clenched up and we're tense, we're actually fighting our body opening in a way, right? Like we're doing the opposite, which makes it a lot more painful and a lot more, your body is working against those contractions. So the idea is to breathe with the contractions, send as much oxygen to your womb and your belly as possible, and to allow your body to open up as much as possible. So to assist rather than to fight against your body. So what I did, what I took from hypnobirthing was a lot of breathing. And I do that today. I do that whenever I'm in pain now, whether it's a period or I stub my toe or whatever it is. I go back to that hypnobirthing breathing of like just sending oxygen throughout my body and just taking a mindful second. And I think it really helps. So yeah, that's what I used for pain for most of my labor. I labored for 12 hours from was like 11:30 p.m. to 11:30 a.m. the next day. And it was a lot of breathing, a lot of squat positions, a lot of trying to open my hips. And then I pushed for, like an hour and a half. So my labor started a week later than, my due date, which is said to be normal for first-time moms. So I had pretty much given up hope that I could speed baby coming out anyway. So I was like, you know what, she's going to come when she's ready. My husband and I had walked maybe like 10 miles the day before. We get home, we have dinner, and I get in bed around 11. Around 11:30 is when I started to feel, oh, okay, is this real? Is this fake? Starting to feel some contractions. And during hypnobirthing, I learned, if you start to feel contractions at night, let your partner sleep, because there's nothing worse than having both of you be exhausted. Like, let him sleep until, you're ready to kind of, move along. So I'm just huffing and puffing in our room, just breathing through it, trying to do all the things. They weren't the most intense, but they were definitely present. And what kind of distinguished them between false labor and real labor was the timing. They were definitely regular and at regular intervals apart. So I was like, okay, this is game time. I would say as we got into 1, 2, 3 a.m., they reached an intensity, I would say like a 5 out of 10. And they stayed at that intensity. They didn't get stronger until around 6 or 7 when I was ready to go to the hospital. So really what I was doing again was just trying to focus on my breathing. I went from being able to kind of be in a squat and breathing to, by the time we were leaving the house around 6:30 or 7, they were probably like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I was walking around. And walking really helped me. I don't know. It's just pacing like the dining room, pacing our bedroom, just moving really helped me. I don't know. It just felt better. Like moving and breathing felt better than being in one place. And I really was just telling myself, you're about to meet your baby. You're about to meet your baby. And that I just kept repeating that. And I don't know. It was just so comforting to me. So instead of like fighting the pain, every time I would get a contraction, I would feel like, oh, she's coming down. She's coming down. She's coming to meet you. And that mindset, I don't know, it just turned something that's like really, uncomfortable, can be really uncomfortable, into something that felt really cute. Just happy to be. I really was just thinking, how do I maintain control of my body in this moment? Like, how do I not, I'm not going to say succumb to the pain, because, it's the process. It is what it is. You're going to feel it everywhere in your body. But how do I not make it worse? I think that's what I was thinking. How do I not work against my body in this moment? How do I not tense up, even though that's all I want to do right now? Because I just knew the second I start to tense up, I make the work harder for my baby to get out. I make it harder for these contractions to push downward if I'm clenching up. And then around 7 a.m. was when contractions started to get really forceful. So I'd stayed up all night having these contractions get closer and closer. And so around 6:30 actually, I called my doctor and I was like, I'm ready to come on in. We got to the hospital and I was 6 centimeters by the time I was checked. So I was like, okay, we're making progress. They put me into a room and I labored for a couple of more hours. When the doctor came and checked again, I was still at 6 centimeters. So at that point, I opted for them to break my water. So my water broke, and pretty immediately I could feel the contractions get so much stronger. So much stronger. And so for the next, I would say about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, I was really, really trying to focus on the tools that I'd learned from hypnobirthing. But it was getting increasingly more difficult to, stay in the zone, because I was so exhausted, right? Like I hadn't slept the night before. So really I hadn't slept since 2 nights prior, right? And so I'm exhausted, and your body is just exhausting you. And I was trying to kind of keep it together, but I kept nodding off. So I'm on the bouncy ball next to the side of the bed, and I kept nodding off in between contractions. So my husband had to get on a chair and sit behind me and kind of like catch me whenever I would nod off. But the bouncy ball was the only thing that was comfortable for me. The nurse came and checked again, and I was at 6 going to 7 centimeters. And at this point, I felt like I couldn't utilize the tools in the way that lended themselves to not using an epidural. Like at that point, I was so tired. I couldn't even picture going into pushing with my tank so empty, right? Because I'm not eating. I was exhausted, and I really wanted to have as much energy for pushing as possible. So I asked for an epidural so that I could sleep for a little bit. In my head, I'm like, okay, great. I'm gonna get this epidural. I'm not dilating super fast right now. So maybe I can get an hour or two of sleep. So she goes and calls for the anesthesiologist to come and set up. It takes about 30 minutes. Between when I asked for it for them to come, and then they set up for another like 10 to 15 minutes. Before they administered the epidural, she was like, hey, let's just check one more time how dilated you are. I was 9 centimeters. So it just felt like, oh, great. I could have kept going, but I was so tired, and I really, really needed a break. Like mentally, I needed a break. And the hope of closing my eyes for even just 30 minutes sounded like heaven. So the epidural was administered. I also wasn't aware that it takes like 20 to 30 minutes for the epidural to actually sink in and to work. So I have it in my back, and I close my eyes to take a nap. And it's not, it takes 20, 30 minutes. As soon as it kicks in, I get tapped on my leg and I was, hey, it's time to push. Because I was complaining that I felt pressure, kind of like the need to go number two. And as the anesthesiologist was walking out, he was like, she's feeling that pressure. She's feeling that pressure. Keep an eye on her. And as soon as I fell asleep, that's when the nurse was like, okay, I think it's time. So I probably had maybe 6 minutes of a nap. And then we went into the pushing. But, I actually wouldn't do it any other way. I think it was really amazing to feel the descent and to feel all the contractions and to feel the strength and the force and to use those hypnobirthing techniques as much as I could, because I really think all of my movement and all of my hip opening and all of my breathing really did help drop baby, so that I didn't have a super long labor. I think 12 hours it's not the quickest, but it's pretty fast for a first time mom. And I really attribute that to all the hypnobirthing techniques that I learned to get me through those 12 hours. But I would so it's breathing in really deeply through your nose. You try to go for like 8 seconds in, and just sending that oxygen into your belly. So letting your belly expand and then holding it, hold, and then out through your mouth for as long as you can, and just doing that over and over again. So when you're pregnant and you have that big belly, you can't really hold your breath for that long. So that's why she didn't really focus super hard on the counts, but just slowly in, hold as long as you can, and then out really, really slowly. And just that over and over, just focusing on sending, like visualizing the air going into your belly and into your pelvis. And that visual really, really helped me target where I wanted to send the oxygen to. And so even before labor, before birth, I would meditate for 20, 30 minutes at a time and just keep that breathing on a cycle. And not only did it help me kind of prepare for labor, but it also just kind of calmed me. Any stressors you're dealing with during pregnancy, because life continues to happen, it would help bring my blood pressure down. It would help bring my heart rate down. And it really allowed me to connect with baby in a stillness and in a moment where, life might be lifing. And I just took a couple minutes and really just felt her and sent her a bunch of yummy oxygen and just was able to still and slow myself. And I'm so, so appreciative of it. And I still breathe like that to this day. And, people think I sound crazy. I think I sound crazy when I tell people that I would go through labor again. And I think that's what happens with moms that have multiple kids. It's like the craziest experience. And then immediately after, you're like, I would do that again. And I think it's because, my labor, I think, was really pleasant. And I say that because I took the breathing from hypnobirthing and I applied it to what I was being told to do in the hospital. So initially, I was kind of in a squatting position over the back of the bed. So my chest was on the back angled part of the bed where your head normally goes. And I was facing over the top of the bed so that I was in a squat position. And that felt really good for me. And then I was told, okay, well, you have an epidural, so you can't actually deliver this way. So I had to be on my back, which was something that, my instructor did let us know, when you have an epidural, they're not going to let you deliver in a squat off the side of the bed or, just kind of how it feels best. Unfortunately, you're going to have to be in the bed. So that was a little bit disappointing for me. But I think by the time she started to come, I did feel in control of my body enough that I was like, okay, I can do this even if I'm on my back. I can still take the practice of hypnobirthing and apply it to her actually coming out. So I actually got to, touch her head, feel her head as she was coming out. And that was really, really amazing. She had a full head of hair. That was interesting to feel. But immediately after they pulled her out, put her on my chest. And yeah, that was such an amazing experience. Like I could live that over and over again a million times. Yeah, she was just perfect and sweet and warm and just a little raisin. It was amazing. And we started to try and breastfeed really, really quickly after that. Within a couple minutes, we were trying to get her on to latch to the nipple. So it was really special. And I honestly tuned out everything else that was going on, like me passing all the other stuff that comes out after, and stitching and all of that. And that was completely blocked out. And I think a lot of my friends ask me, with the stitches, did that hurt? And I don't even remember them because you're so focused on this little baby that's on your chest that you don't even register what's going on down below. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. And I say that I would do birth a million times over because I felt in control. I felt like I was breathing the way I wanted to. I felt like I didn't fight my body the whole time. And I felt, like I had autonomy. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we created a whole Word document of, we want the lights dim. We had candles. We had LED candles going. We had a playlist that we made. We had incense. We had all the things. And I knew that when I was pushing, I wanted to set all of that up and have everything going. But actually pushing her was so fast that I didn't even use half of the things. I didn't have the music going. We had the candles on, the lights were dim, but it wasn't how I expected it to be because the whole process felt so fast. It happened so much faster than I expected. So it felt really comforting knowing that I felt prepared. Even though I didn't end up using everything, being prepared made me feel comfortable and that I knew how to take care of myself in that moment. And I didn't have to rely on everyone else. But yeah, we did create a Word document with kind of a list for the staff to not pressure me into having an epidural. So don't bring it up if I don't bring it up. What else did we have on there? To keep the lights dim, to limit cervical checks to only as necessary, to try and keep as many people in and out of the room as possible. So we gave that to them when we got to the hospital. And it saves you any potentially awkward conversations. So for me, I'm really comfortable in the hospital because I worked in the hospital for a while and I have no problem, kind of advocating for myself. But I think for someone who might not be so comfortable in the hospital setting, because it can be really sterile and intimidating and you have people telling you what to do and you think you have to do certain things. I think if you type up things beforehand, things that are really important to you, go over it with the nurse when you get there. And of course, if there's something that's absolutely medically necessary and, you can talk about it at that time, but to give them your wishes ahead of time saves you any discomfort or feeling like you're being railroaded or, it saves you any of those awkward conversations or, feeling like you're not doing what you want. So I highly recommend typing up a Word document and giving them to the nurse when you get there to just kind of cherish your body in that moment, because your body is doing something that is so incredibly beautiful. And until I took hypnobirthing, I was terrified of labor. But hypnobirthing really made me feel confident and that I had the tools to take control of my labor, to take control of myself, and to connect with my baby even before I held her. So yeah, I really recommend it.